Joining me, Jack Burkman, Republican strategist, K Street lobbyist, and host of Behind the Curtain on Newsmax TV. Also, John Neffinger, Democratic strategist and author of Compelling People. We start in Iowa, site of the first presidential primary. The results on both sides of the political divide were close.
What a victory last night.
I am so thrilled that I'm coming to New Hampshire after winning Iowa.
On the right, Ted Cruz finished first, Donald Trump second, and Marco Rubio third. On the left, Hillary Clinton edged out Bernie Sanders. So who's the big story here, John?
Well, look, this is the first time we've had a woman win the Iowa caucuses, so I think that's a big story that not a lot of people are talking about because there's a lot else going on. I would say bigger than that, even though, given everything that's been going on, is Trump. Trump, the winner, who's going to get us tired of winning, did not, in fact, win. He had a lot going for him, clearly, in the polls, but didn't translate that into action. And that's his brand, and that's a pretty big ding in it, I think.
Yeah, John's right. I mean, it punctures the aura around Trump. I think it does. The big story, though, is Marco Rubio and the media's determination. I think the media across the board, establishment media, conservative media, everywhere, seems to want to propel Rubio, even though he had only a third-place finish in Iowa, and he's trailing badly in New Hampshire. And I don't know what kind of a national organization he has, if any. But they continue to pump Rubio. The big question in this campaign, Morris, and I've said it all along, is one thing, and that is whether Donald Trump is going to write a check. And that's a question that, for whatever reason, the media doesn't focus on. If Trump wants to spend $300 million, this race is his. I wonder if he does.
Well, the problem is, and Politico reported this very well, that one reason he lost Iowa, he wasn't going old school. Sometimes you've just got to spend money on analytics, on the ground game. He thought that his personality and the cult that he had around him would win it. It did not. Now, the noise around Ben Carson got pretty weird on Monday. First, Representative Steve King, who supports Cruz, suggested Carson was going to drop out. Then Carson sent out a press release saying he left Iowa to get a fresh set of clothes. Cruz won the caucus. Trump and Carson cried foul. Was this a dirty trick, Jack?
Oh, I really doubt it, Morris. I doubt it. I think Carson has been out of this race for some time. I don't know why the media really is continuing to focus on him. He did okay in a 10%, a fourth-place finish in Iowa. I don't think he'll place in New Hampshire, and I think he'll be done after that.
Now, meanwhile, the campaigns are focusing on New Hampshire. The latest polls show Trump with a double-digit lead over Rubio and Sanders leading Clinton by a 2-to-1 margin. How much does New Hampshire matter, John?
Historically, if you look at the Sanders-Clinton race, we have never seen, or at least in a very long time, we have not seen a New Hampshire primary with somebody, a legislator, or a competitor from the neighboring state who has not taken it. So I think not only would this be history if Hillary Clinton won because she's the first female, whatever, but also because she really is the underdog here. He's got the home field advantage. So I think she's there. She's playing in this primary because New Hampshire's been very good to her in the past. Remember, she came back from down double digits in the last 2 days, the last time around. So she's not going to skip it. That would look like that would be bad form.
Since 08,
but yeah,
since 08, Obama. I think I disagree a bit more. Since 08, Obama has turned the old media and momentum thesis from the 80s on its head. New Hampshire and Iowa mean less because with the current media coverage today, as Obama set the standard, candidates in both parties now realize you have to go the distance and get the delegates. I'm sure Sanders is planning to do that. Democratic side is more predictable because we know what will happen in New Hampshire. Sanders is going to get wiped out through the South. He can make a comeback later on. The real question is whether Bernie Sanders has the organization and the money to survive through the SEC primaries and beyond, such that when you get back to states that will favor him, he'll still be around. It's going to be an issue of money for Sanders.
What's odd is how far left the Democratic Party has got. John F. Kennedy would not be considered a Democrat at this point. Bill Clinton, who was a moderate, they're all competing to get to the left of Sanders. And, you know, a lot of people blame President Obama for turning the Democratic left. Of course, I shouldn't talk because the Republicans are going the other direction to the right. And amid the noise of this primary campaign, President Obama made his first visit to a U.S. mosque.
Recently, we've heard inexcusable political rhetoric against Muslim Americans that has no place in our country.
Speech, Donald Trump went on cable news and suggested Obama feels more comfortable in a mosque. Rubio suggested the visit divided Americans even further. Jack, there's been a lot of talk about faith and religion in this campaign cycle. Do you think too much?
Oh, probably too much, although it favors Trump. I think one of the things Trump did very skillfully, Morris, is he carved out the right-wing position. He's a businessman. He said, if you want to sell paper towels, how do you do it? We're going to move to the right. It's just like we're selling products for Procter & Gamble or Johnson & Johnson. He carved out that position, and everybody had to chase him there. I don't think Trump believes all that stuff he says about Muslims or Hispanics or anybody else, but it was brilliant politically.
John, he's got to convince people come the general election, if he gets that far, that he didn't mean what he said.
Yeah, there's a big pivot ahead for somebody coming out of the Republican primary because, as you say, they've gone so far to the right that if they're going to have any hope to be competitive in a general, there's going to be a lot of explaining to do.
No,
Let's
remember
just put it that way.
One thing about Trump, I think, and this is one of the reasons I think Trump is the strongest Republican, is that he can morph very easily into a general election candidate. Remember, this guy used to be pro-choice. He used to be to the left of center.
That's right,
now,
and nobody holds these little adjustments against him, at least in that hardcore support.
As we've all agreed off camera, he's got to grow up. He's got to act presidential and stop this 7th grade, I know you are, but what am I? And all this other stuff.
Right.
All right, moving on, Clinton and Sanders really went after each other at the latest Democratic debate. They sparred over health care, Wall Street, and super PACs. Clinton accused Sanders of smearing her progressive credentials.
I really don't think these kinds of attacks by insinuation are worthy of you. And enough is enough. If you've got something to say, say it.
All right, John, Sanders says he's running a positive campaign. Does Clinton have a point there?
Absolutely. For months now. You can go back to December and you can see where Bernie has been saying that Hillary changing position is not just a policy issue, it raises a character issue. So he's been trying to have it both ways, both smearing her character, that's the word that Hillary used, and I think that's accurate, and also, of course, claiming that he's above all of that he's running a positive campaign. So Clinton finally called him on it.
John,
hopefully they'll get back to policy
just for the record, have you endorsed Hillary?
I have not formally endorsed Hillary, but I do support Hillary. I think Bernie's hypocrisy, frankly, here, though, is pretty clear.
Let me say, I'm ill-suited to give advice to the far left, but this is what I would say. One of the things you note about a campaign is whether, when you ask somebody on the street, what are the 2 things Bernie Sanders stands for? What are the 2 things Donald Trump stands for? What are the 2 things Hillary Clinton stands for? With Bernie Sanders, you know right away why he's running.
Free stuff.
Free stuff.
That's
free stuff and more free stuff, right.
Yeah.
But if I said to you, what are the 2 things Hillary Clinton stands for? I've been in politics 35 years, Morris. I'm not sure what the 2 things are that she stands for.
Well, she promised she polls everything. Bill
How about
was this way.
experience?
They poll everything
How about
first.
progress? I think that's where what she would say.
But you see how vague that is. Listen to what you just said.
Well, the problem
you see
is
how vague that is.
Voters don't care
well,
about
free stuff is
experience,
pretty
though.
concrete. That's true.
All right. Well, the field got smaller this week. Martin O'Malley, Mike Huckabee, Rand Paul, and Rick Santorum are out. Who's next? Jim Gilmore is still in it, Jack.
Jim Gilmore. Well, I'm considering endorsing Jim. Oh, God, the things people do for TV exposure.
He's not even getting that. Nobody knows who he is.
He's not even getting that. Well, I'll tell you, I think you have a 3-man race on the Republican side. Trump, Cruz, and Rubio. Democratic side, obviously, it's 2 people. Big question is whether Michael Bloomberg will enter this race. People talk about Webb. I don't think Webb could impact it either way. But I think Bloomberg could hurt the Democrats if he jumps in.
All right, Jeb Bush, and that's now a hyphenated 3 name, poor Jeb Bush, finished 6th in Iowa. He's hoping for a boost in New Hampshire. On Thursday, he unleashed his secret weapon.
I didn't really plan on this, but Jeb is the nicest, wisest, most caring, loyal, disciplined. That's good. Not by me. But he's not a bragger. We don't allow that. But he's decent and honest. He's everything we need in a president.
The former First Lady had no trouble winning applause, but Jeb did.
I think the next president needs to be a lot quieter, but send a signal that we're prepared to act in the national security interests of this country, to get back in the business of creating a more peaceful world. Please clap.
Poor Jeb Bush. John, this is painful. Please say something.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness, I think he just screwed up the intonation of the last line, and so he was kind of cueing them to clap.
He screwed up a lot of stuff in
He
the
screwed up a
debates.
whole heck of a lot of stuff. He's sort of a sad and lonely character at this point. But I will say, personally, I thank him for staying in this race. I think the Republicans should. I think the country should, because he at least reminds us that not everybody is competing to out conservative Attila the Hun in the Republican Party, that there is some semblance of dignity still left there.
Jack, this has been so much material for Saturday Night Live. I watch every week just to see how they're going to do
parody, just how they're going to
Trump.
parody Jeb. I'll tell you, Jeb Bush has the same chance of being president that I do of being written in at the convention, Morris. I would put it like that.
Who would have thought? A year ago, he
Yeah.
had the most money. Statistics show that whoever had the most money this early on would
Well,
get
he'll
to the
hang in it. He's got over $100 million still in super PAC power, maybe even closer to 150. I haven't studied the numbers recently. He probably has enough in his direct campaign coffers to hang around for a long time. There's nothing going to force him out of the race anytime soon, I can tell you that.
John, you want to place your bets? How soon Jeb's going to bow out or just stay in?
I think Jack's right. I think he's still got a whole pile of money left to slowly burn his way through. And like I said, I think he still has something to say. He certainly is not going to prove anything, but hopefully he will keep on with his message, trying to hold the rest of the field honest.
We end in agreement. John Neffinger, Democratic strategist, Jack Burkman, Republican strategist, the best political panel on TV. Thanks to you both.
Thanks, Morris. Thank you, John.